So, what if I told you that one of the most revolutionary inventions in all of human history, I'm talking about writing, wasn't created for poetry or for laws or for epic stories? Nope. It was actually invented for something way more, well, mundane. Okay, let's dive in and uncover the surprisingly practical and kind of boring origins of writing. Let's start with a problem, and it's a big one. Just imagine for a second you're in charge of one of the world's first cities. You've got people farming, trading goods, building things, but you have absolutely no way to write any of it down. How on earth do you keep track of everything? I mean, seriously, put yourself in their shoes. You're trying to manage a huge surplus of grain, you've got to track all your livestock, and you need to remember who owes what to whom. Human memory is, well, it's not perfect, right? Especially when the actual survival of your entire community is on the line, you need a system, something you can trust. This was the massive management crisis facing ancient Mesopotamia. And that brings us to our first really key idea here. The big push to invent writing didn't come from a poet dreaming up an epic. It came from an accountant. The absolute need for trustworthy, reliable economic records, that was the real catalyst. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? Forget the great myths and legends for a minute. The very first things people wrote down were inventory lists, receipts, and contracts. It all kicked off with the super practical need to manage goods and, stop people from arguing about who owned what. So how did they pull this off with no paper, no ink, none of that? Well, they used what they had, which was a ton of clay. And with it, they developed this absolutely ingenious system that was, for all intents and purposes, the world's very first database. They made these little clay tokens, and this was a huge leap in thinking. See, a token wasn't the actual grain itself, it was information about the grain. They were literally turning physical stuff into abstract, symbolic data. It's a huge conceptual jump. And the system itself was just beautiful in its simplicity. You can see here, a specific shape meant a specific thing. So a little cone-shaped token might be 1 unit of grain. A sphere might be 10 units. A cylinder could represent 1 animal. You could literally hold your entire inventory right in the palm of your hand. If you want a modern way to think about it, it's kind of like a cafeteria that uses different colored plastic chips for meals versus snacks, or like poker chips representing different dollar amounts. It's simple, it's effective, everyone gets it. But for the ancient Mesopotamians, this wasn't some game. This system was absolutely crucial for managing their entire economy. But, just like with any new technology, this awesome token system created a brand new problem. The problem of trust. Right? I mean, think about it. If you're sending a big shipment of grain to another town, and you send a messenger along with the tokens that represent that grain, what's to stop the messenger from just, pocketing a few tokens and taking the grain they represent? How do you create a secure, tamper-proof transaction? Well, the solution was another brilliant, low-tech invention, the bulla. What they do is take all the tokens for a specific transaction, stick them inside a hollow clay ball, and then seal it shut. It was basically an ancient security envelope. Once that thing was sealed, nobody could change the number of tokens inside without literally breaking it open. Okay, so the bulla was secure. Great. But it created a new dilemma. It was also completely opaque. You couldn't see inside. So, to check the invoice, you had to smash the very thing that made it so secure in the first place. That's not ideal. How do you solve that problem? This next part, this is the climax of our whole story. The clever fix for this little logistical headache is what accidentally changed the entire course of human history. So here's what they did. It was so smart. Before sealing the bulla, the scribes started pressing the tokens into the wet clay on the outside. That way, the marks on the exterior showed exactly what was sealed inside. And then you can just feel the aha moment, can't you? Someone realized, wait a minute, if the marks on the outside perfectly represent the tokens on the inside, why do we even need the tokens anymore? And that was the tectonic shift. They moved from using physical objects, the tokens, to using abstract symbols pressed onto a surface. The information became separate from the physical thing. This wasn't just a better way to do accounting, this was the very, very beginning of writing. So, because of this incredible, accidental discovery, the world was suddenly set on a totally new path. And it turns out the simple need for better paperwork had some pretty profound consequences. Now, something that's really important to remember is that this wasn't an overnight revolution. I mean, look at this timeline. This was a slow, gradual evolution that took place over thousands of years. Each step was just a practical solution to a practical problem, from simple counting tokens way back around 8000 BCE, all the way to the emergence of early cuneiform script. And what were they writing on these first cuneiform tablets? Was it poetry? History? Nope. It was all about logistics. We're talking about inventory lists, records of rations for workers, tax documents, and receipts for goods. The powerful engine of civilization was literally running on administrative paperwork. I absolutely love this quote because it gets right to the human core of this whole thing. Writing gave complex societies something absolutely essential, an undeniable external record that could settle arguments and build trust between people. So, if we're going to sum it all up, it's this. The pressure of bureaucracy, the simple need to keep track of stuff, forced us to outsource our own memories. We went from keeping it all in our heads to using objects to finally using symbols on clay. And that process didn't just give us accounting, it gave us history. Which leaves you with a pretty fascinating thought, doesn't it? The most transformative innovations so often spring from solving the most ordinary, sometimes even boring problems. It really makes you wonder, what kind of mundane administrative challenge are we tackling today that might just be the seed for the next great leap forward for humanity?